Hello, once again, this is Carl Freund with Cambrian-AI Research, and I have another special guest that I think you'll find very interesting, Jilei Hou from Qualcomm Technologies, where he is the Vice President of Engineering and is focused on the research into artificial intelligence. Welcome, Jilei.
Hey, Carl, very nice to meet you here, for having me on your session. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. You and I've had a few conversations of late, and I've published a Forbes blog with a link to the excellent webcast you produced a couple weeks ago, I think it was, where you really went into a lot of detail. And I would encourage our audience to go to that link. I'll have it here on this webcast, this video as well, so you can get into the details. But today, let's just keep it at a high level. Let's start with your mission. What is the mission of AI research at Qualcomm Technologies?
Yeah, thank you, Carl. This is a really good question. At Qualcomm AI Research, our mission is to advance AI to make our core AI capabilities, including perception, reasoning, and action, truly ubiquitous across devices and industries. And from an R&D point of view, we are developing the common platform that is a fundamental to scale AI across the industry. These platform innovation are common and essential to the AI problems that we encounter on a daily basis, which include, for example, power efficiency, which are the techniques to allow efficient, on-device compute, and on-device learning, which are the machine learning technology to allow, the neural network being adapted to the user behavior and the preference, while also preserving the data privacy. And the last one is about efficient learning. So this is ability about training the model with a strong expressive power, while with a little or no data annotation, and also ensure there's a model robustness. With this mission in mind, in 2018, to bring greater focus and emphasis to our AI research effort, we have initiated Qualcomm AI Research, and it brings together all of the AI-focused research effort within the company together under one unified umbrella. And we are working with our product team, which also help accelerate, Qualcomm innovation in some of the key areas, as we mentioned, include, power efficiency and also personalization into AI use cases. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we'll talk about some of your AI firsts, as you call them, first accomplishments in the industry in just a moment. But before we do, perhaps you just mentioned productization. How do you think about the path between research and product development? How do you shorten that path? I can tell you, I'm very excited about some of the things you're researching, and I can't wait to get them in my hand into a smartphone. What's the path?
So this is a great point. I have to say, this is actually a universally good challenge, right? In terms of how to bridging the gap between research and product. So in that sense, we believe we have done a few things, right, and also we have brought forward in terms of highlights and to think about how to make sure research content can be maximized benefits, from our product teams. So a few things we do, for example, first, we anticipate the technology trends and focus on the topic that are important and the research efforts that can intersect with the product roadmap in time. So, in a way, right, you try to see what are the important things and also what are more timely coming along the way. So then we can make sure getting into the product line. The second is also very important is you continuously engage and also trying to get the product team to be buying even at an early stage. Or even, I have a very good practice is helping embed the engineers from the commercial, from the engineering side into the research group. So for some of the, proof of concept, for some of the conceptual design stage, which more happen at the early part of R&D stage, We can get the commercial side of the team to be involved. So this is what will be create really strong utility when the coming times for technology transfer for commercialization. The commercial team will be much more convenient position to pick up the features and putting out into the commercial releases. So one such good example, I think if some of you have been follow our AI first webinar, it's about the power efficient AI. So in the power efficient AI space, one of the really strong highlights we have putting forward is about quantization research. So quantization, right, is largely speaking, you can think about is about reducing the bit widths of the model weights and also the activation computation. So the challenge there is about reducing the bit width while still maintaining very high accuracy. And also doing in a way where it's a very convenient from an ML workflow perspective. People talk about ML ops, for example, right? It's a very convenient, can fit into the workflow from our customers. So from that perspective, on one side, easily I can count in close to about actually 10, research papers over the past 2 or 3 years, essentially in the quantization research space, published in the top venue, AI conferences. But on the other hand, we also, put them into what we call the AI model efficiency toolkit, also, abbreviation, we call it AMIT. We can put in the AMIT, either there's an open source version, we can get in, the app developer, or it could be, even research community, they can take the benefits right away. But sometimes we also put in more advanced version of this feature into more the commercial version, or even embedded into our software workflow, things like a Snappy, like a QNN, this kind of workflow, to make sure our key customers can take the benefits in a more comprehensive way. So, overall speaking, for example, through this kind of a research pipeline to enable use case, and also helping putting on the toolkits, actually is allow the research team is not just contributing to the paper. We also contributing to the core development of some of the toolkits in a very essential way. So then also with the embedding of the commercial team in the early part of the proof of concept design, we allow the tech transfer of the content into the final product in a very convenient way. So that's kind of a bit kind of recipe. We felt we have a good success to putting out some of the research highlights into the product form in a much kind of convenient timeline as well. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm glad to see you include the enablement of your ecosystem, your customers, to be able to get early access to the technology, so that when they're ready, when you're ready with chips and they're ready with handsets, the end user experience is ready to go. That's great. So the AI first, we don't have time to repeat your entire wonderful webinar on AI first, but could you just give the audience a couple of examples of things that you feel will have the most impact on improving user experience from these innovations you've created in AI?
Sure. Yeah, a couple of things I can quickly think about among the AI first we putting out there. By the way, very proud. We present this AI first webinar. Generally speaking, all the highlights there we can largely categorize into 3 major research categories. There's topic under what we call the platform innovation area. There's a topics more going into the fundamental research, and there's a topics more about the applied use cases. So maybe I can pick one each in a different spot. So for example, in the platform innovation area, I can easily picking on the quantization research, because this is a topic as many of you probably realize over the years. AI has brought a tremendous new capability to the research community, the industry, and the society, but is also coming at a very challenging cost in terms of exponentially increasing energy consumption. So because the model size is increasing huge, for example, if people talk about GPT-3 model coming from OpenAI, This is about 175 billion parameters. By training one such model alone, I think this is about the equivalent driving 120 vehicles on the road for the year in terms of all the carbon footprint, we putting on the society, which is humongous. So one of the quick, powerful tool we have in hand, we believe, is about quantization. As we mentioned earlier, the quantization is about an automated reduction in the precision of the weights and activations while maintaining accuracy. For example, the things from a really user experience point of view, right? When you think about typically when people training or deploying a model in a 32-bit floating point, with our advanced quantization, research toolkits we can put out there, we can easily compress the bit width into 16, 8, or even 4-bit for many of the models. So which can resulting up to 4, 16, or even up to 64x in terms of performance per watt, which is coming from a saving in terms of memory access and a computation from a Mac complexity perspective. So the second topic I probably would like to easily mention, which is about on-device learning. On-device learning, think about this way, right? One of the strengths Qualcomm presenting to the whole ecosystem is really about the mobile ecosystem, which is arguably the largest, ecosystem in the whole world. Because we literally have hundreds of millions or even billions of users, within the ecosystem. From that point of view, if you think about the benefits on-device learning can provide, right? For example, continuous learning, which is a model can getting smarter and adapt over time. For example, as I speak for myself, which, let's say Google or Amazon in their speech recognition, could be coming from Qualcomm solution. All these solutions, think about when I speak about my voice, actually the tone or the pitch is changing as the seasons moving from each of the season to the next. So if you can letting the model adaptation happen on the device, which kept picking up my personal, tone changes over the seasons, actually can allow, basically much better accuracy and having, the model basically adapting to my behavior, right? Or even my preference. The second benefits from on-device learning really boils down to data privacy, because we can making the learning happen on the device while the data never leaving your device, which is a great, advantage I feel for a lot of people who care about, the privacy of their own data is really essential. And the last, which not the least, is about the scale, because if you can let your learning to happen in such a distributed way, without sourcing all the data into a centralized cloud, this is allowed the training happen in a distributed way, very scalable manner. I think we feel this is serving really great benefits as well. So the last one, we probably feeling AI for user experience. One of the things, some of you probably are picking up at the NWC this year. We just announced our X70, which is the first 5G AI modem. So within the AI 5G modem, there's a few features is tying to essentially using AI, using machine learning to improve the wireless experience. So one of the essential experience is about, for example, we want to expand the coverage of the millimeter wave band, because everyone knows millimeter wave band, right, is having a shorter, wavelength, but at a much wider bandwidth. But one of the shortcoming is at a shorter wavelength, the coverage, generally speaking, is limited. So the way we have conducted is using AI machine learning technique to improve the coverage of the millimeter wave band. So make sure, whenever you think about for the transmission or communication on those bands, where you can letting the beam to focus the right energy at the right direction and the right angles. So then you can pick up the millimeter wave coverage in a much greater way. And also you can pick up the throughput and pick up the user experience to helping our modem to compete the best in the world. So these are a few things we feel is a very convenient AI can helping the user experience.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I can't wait to see these come to life. So obviously, as a research organization, you're always working on the next great things. So what do you think your next set of first would entail beyond the 8 you've already described in your webcast? What are you most excited about?
All right, then this is a very exciting topic. So a few things we can easily think about. The first one probably for many of you, right? When we think about the deep learning, largely I have to say deep learning is really good at the capture on the pattern, presented in the data, where generally speaking, machine learning or deep learning is largely become a pattern recognition problem, which machine learning is extremely good at capture some of the subtle details and being able to memorize and also presenting some of the, prediction or regression results accordingly. But there's a new trend we felt is very exciting and promising, which is about applying AI more towards decision making, more towards planning, more towards optimization problems. One such good example and could be, when we think about Qualcomm, right, as a major SoC company. But if you think about from an SoC design, typically people think about as a chip design problem, how do you do the layout? How are you going to decide on every single component, where you're going to drop them? You can have millions or even hundreds of millions of such a little pieces you have to drop into the SoC. So it turns out you can using AI as a principle, how to approaching the chip design. And you can design in a way you can complementary to the conventional design method, which we call a neural augmentation, where you can letting the conventional approach to conducting to the level, but letting machine learning to coming in complementary to pick up some of the subtle patterns of conventional method cannot cover the best. So in that sense, you can think about from a chip design, from a decision making for the chip design, we can combine the conventional method and the machine learning together to providing the best solution, which is a very exciting topic for us. So the second topic maybe along the way, again going back to wireless. Wireless, as we going to more into the 5G advanced, going to 6G, one of the very focal point where we believe, just from a few forward-looking, think about wireless perspective, we think of sensing going to play a very essential role into the future of 6G. So what is really boils down, coming down to how the sensing can help facilitate communications. And then which, coming down to how you can design very advanced machine learning method to providing very advanced capability for sensing. And then from a sensing where you can say, if I can letting sensing to perceive the environment in a very intellectual way or comprehensively, so then I can letting the communication happen in more intelligent. So I think a lot of imagination we can put in that place and allow the wireless AI can really advance to the next stage, very exciting way. So maybe the last topic, around the really from a forward-looking perspective is about the neural reasoning. So neural reasoning, going back to what we talked about earlier, you can think about using machine learning beyond pattern recognition. You can think about using for planning or even optimization, right? Even taking one step further, if you think about if we can building interactive simulation environment where we can connect in the physical and the digital space, where we can letting learning to happen in this simulation environment, which can enable much more advanced learning methodologies such as interactive AI, instead only in an observational way. So interactive AI will allow us to conducting AI in a much more interactive form, and also potentially identify things between cause and effect, and also using much more advanced learning methods such as imitation learning or reinforcement learning, such that we can really push in the boundary of the AI, which we can beyond AI, beyond pattern recognition, beyond what we call the reasoning, and also reasoning with the causality. So a lot of new exciting is coming along, and we feel very excited about.
I can see why. There's a lot of things there to work on. That's for sure. You've got a very busy agenda, and we look forward to seeing all of your great ideas and your team's great work come out into handsets and servers in the not too distant future. So, Jilei, I want to thank you very much for spending your time. I know you're a busy guy, but spend a little time helping my audience understand what you guys are doing and why it's so important, the impacts it'll have on a lot of technology coming down the pike. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Carl, for having me here. I think I'm very happy to talk to you through these topics.
Well, let's do it again soon. There's lots going on in your lab, so I look forward to further conversations with you. Thank you very much. Take care and stay well.
Sure.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.